Well, welcome to the Pursuit Podcast. This is episode 5. We're so glad you guys are joining us today. And today's topic is going to be on dealing with COVID-19 based on your personality type. And so if you don't know who we are, my name's Nick, one of the pastors here.
And my name's Brianna. I'm the connections director here.
And this is going to be really fun because you may not know us this well, but I totally would be classified as an introvert, I think anyway.
And I, believe it or not, would be classified as an extrovert.
Yeah. And so I'm really excited Brianna's here today. So a little bit of backstory that you guys need to know before we get into this conversation is that Brianna had an unfortunate accident in October where she had a kind of a severe concussion. And it was kind of a crazy process. And so you couldn't be in bright lights. You couldn't fully even really start functioning until January. So Brianna has technically been in quarantine since October. So she has more experience and understanding of the long-term effects of what some of us are experiencing right now. And so, one, thank you, Luke, for letting her out of the house.
Yes, I am on cloud 9 right now, being in this building with people other than my husband and my kids. So I am so excited to be here.
Yeah. And you may have seen Brianna on a Zoom call or some type of digital meeting, but I'm excited that she's here in person.
Me too.
So I think this is going to be a really good conversation. But let's start just talking about, let people get to know us a little bit. How has it been living through this quarantine from our personalities in as far as that experience goes?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I have been finding myself on my balcony, just waiting for people to come out and walk their dogs so that I can have some kind of conversation with some person. Give me the people.
Or you like dropping food off the balcony so a dog runs over by your side of the house.
Please take this bread.
Just talk.
Oh, hi. I just happened to be on the balcony.
I haven't been waiting here for 3 hours for you to come by.
And now I see my daughter doing it, which is even funnier.
Yes.
Because she's definitely an extrovert as well. So she was talking to neighbors last night on the balcony. And I'm like, yeah, like mother, like daughter.
So as an introvert, when this whole thing settled in and you're we all went through the process, we were learning what's happening and stuff. I remember my wife was helping friends watch kids, and we had extra community people. We were just trying to help people. And so I remember the first couple of weeks when it felt like we had more things that we could do. I remember coming home one day and I was like, when does isolation start? Because I'm ready to not be around so many people, because literally we have more people in our house all the time than we did. And it was like, I'm an introvert. I need some alone time at some point.
And I'm over here like, how is that? Like, I would be so excited. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that introverts are thriving during this time and extroverts are suffering? What do you think about that?
I think we have preconceived notions a little bit on it. I know, like, one aspect as an introvert, everything is on video calls now. And as an introvert, I can only handle so much relationship. I need it and I love it. So just to give you some insight into like a church staff member, and this goes back to like, even from the early days as a church, we always had multiple services. And like a big thing on Sunday after services is you want to like go out to lunch, hang out with people. And as an introvert, it's not that I don't like doing that. After so many services and seeing so many people, as an introvert, I just
wiped out.
I want to go home and be alone. And that's the only way I'm going to fill my tank. Whereas like an extrovert probably wants more relational.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I do think that, everyone probably is suffering in some degree, because we all need people and relationships. Yeah. But I think we can get too involved and never say no, and one thing to the next, and then I think we can tire ourselves out too, but just in a different way, because we just don't want to say no. We want to keep going and have fun.
So maybe for people listening, I'm going to make a statement. You tell me what you think about it.
Okay.
What I've heard is that because it's a little gray, introvert, extrovert, it's not so like,
definitely
there's some crossover, but from what I've understood and heard people say is, if being around people all the time is what fills you up, you're an extrovert. And if you need to go alone to get filled up, you're probably more of an introvert. Is that
Yeah,
true?
I would agree with that. I think that extroverts definitely get their energy and their happiness like through other people's energy and being with other people.
So for our conversation today, just to get us on the same page, we know there's a blend.
Yeah.
We joke. We were joking that I'm the extrovert and you're the introvert. But everyone that knows us knows that's not true.
I think over time, though, with my quarantine being literally half a year, that I have learned how to be maybe more of an introvert and maybe have that blurred line a little bit now. But
so what we want to debunk a myth, because I think there's been this myth that since the whole quarantine thing has started and things have looked different. Yep. The myth is that introverts are thriving because everyone got forced home and extroverts are just suffering.
Yeah.
But I think that's a myth. So we want to just talk about that and debunk that myth a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know if I fully agree with that, because I do, like I said, I think that everyone needs community and relationships, and it just looks different based on if you're an extrovert or an introvert.
Yeah. One thing we talk about from the church perspective is community is very biblical. And whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, we all need some form of community.
Yep.
And it's more complicated than just sticking us in a box. And
I do think it's really good for the extroverts right now. Really finding or, trying to find that time of rest and solitude and prayer. Jesus is a great example of finding those times during the day where he would go, to away and pray. And that's something that I think all of us would thrive on finding.
Yeah. When I was thinking about just introverts and extroverts previous to this conversation, one of the things I was researching was the reality, and I don't think we give this enough credit in this whole conversation, is that whether you're an introvert or extrovert, we all need relational connection. It's just the real difference is that we need different levels of relational connection.
For sure.
So as an introvert, I still crave it and need it. I just don't need as much as maybe you need.
Right. Yes. I could just keep on going, like one thing to the next, to the next. Oh, sure. Yeah, you have something. That sounds awesome. I'm there.
One thing I learned about, and I want to hear your input on this because it involves extroverts, is actually in this time, extroverts can pivot easier. So a lot of large gathering and relational events got canceled on us. But in actuality, an extrovert is better at pivoting to calling people, doing FaceTime. And so they will still seek out what they want.
Yep.
And actual introverts have a hard time changing the rules.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely see right away. I was already scheduling Zoom calls, Google Hangouts, house parties, FaceTimes, like you name it. I was scheduling those with everybody I know. So I would say that's pretty accurate. Yes.
Yeah. And as an introvert, I can tell you, we probably are craving some relationships, but we're not going to go initiate it because that's just not in our DNA. Like, I'm not going to sit at home and now start calling people. I don't like talking on the phone.
Yeah, maybe this is a good thing to point out. Extroverts maybe want to find those introverted friends and schedule those Zoom calls.
If you have some
Google
introvert
Hangouts.
friends, you need to reach out to them.
Yes.
One of the things I saw that I think plays into this was we have some staff members with some spouses that are introverts. And what I noticed from introverts is, like when school canceled and some of our regular things, I think we take for granted the relational connection we get there. But when those canceled, all of a sudden people that never engage on social media were now engaging on social media. But I think it's because they needed something and they had to do it because we all crave relationships at some level. Yep.
No, I completely agree. And I think this time of slowing down and focusing on just all the extra time that we have, we don't have the distractions and the busyness, all of a sudden. So I guess I'm just wondering, like, what has surfaced in this time for you?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. And I think initially none of us thought that way. But I think now we're starting to see that more and more as we're more weeks in, a week or two.
Honeymoon phase is over.
Yeah, a week or two is pretty temporary. But especially the last couple of weeks, it's been different. So one thing that I knew before this, but it even looks different now, is that I need release valves in my life, so to speak. And I don't know how you'd word that, or like ways to let stress out might be a way you've thought about it. And prior to this, working out for me has always been one of those things, working out or even construction projects. That's kind of how I spend some of my free time. But for me, it's an outlet. And so I'm learning what healthy habits I have and what unhealthy habits I have, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's very common for everybody. I'm finding just getting into that new rhythm too. The rhythms look so different right now during this time than when you're busy and have a million things to do during the day. Just finding that I'm learning how to be in the present more. I'm very future oriented.
Yeah.
And I've realized that with my kids, with my family, just really slowing down has helped get in that present moment with them more. And then journaling has been huge for me as well. And really just gratitude journaling and journaling just after reading the word and getting into that has really helped me slow down and get my thoughts out on paper. And then there's school. Let's not forget about that.
We don't have school at our house yet. We just have to deal with the toddler who doesn't know any boundaries.
Oh man, I tell you what, teachers out there, so much.
Teachers are going to get raises,
support,
hopefully.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know how they do it.
A lot of parents just learn that their kid was probably the problem, not the teacher.
Yes, right? Like,
Sorry to say that out loud, but you're all
though.
thinking it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to share it out loud.
Gosh, my middle child, it's like pulling teeth trying to get him to do school. But yeah. Man. So, I don't know where I was going with that, but
it's all good. Let's get back to just things that I'm recognizing from my perspective. And you shared a little bit of this, but for me, what I realized really quickly, and if you guys know my personality, I can be a control freak. I said it. I'll confess that.
An 8.
And so what I realized, I'm an Enneagram 8 if you have taken the Enneagram. But what I realized is that things have changed fast and almost like they were changing daily. And for me, when you are used to having more control, and we don't really have as much control as we think we do, I think that's just something we have to learn. But I realized I needed to do some things that I could control regularly if I wanted to even be able to cope with this time. And so for me, and these are not anything crazy, they're actually really simple. But for me, if I can do these 3 things every day, I usually have good days. And even through this time, if I sense myself having bad time, I probably can trace back. I haven't done all 3 daily regularly. And so the 3 for me are pretty simple. The first one is workout, and Enneagram 8s are known for their intensity. And so I have a daily workout I'm doing that's called the Pandemic Challenge, and I set a goal for myself. And 2 is my quiet time. I have to read the word and get in the Bible. And 3, my third thing, and it's more of just a feel of like I'm having control thing, is that I make a cup of coffee. My wife also makes an amazing homemade London fog. So sometimes I get that. But those are my 3, and I can knock those out in less than 30 minutes each day. But for me, just doing those has given me some sense of, okay, I can navigate the day. If I don't do them, my day it actually just doesn't go as well.
Yeah, I'm very similar to that. I have my rhythm as well. And it is getting into the word, journaling, having my coffee, and just making sure I'm having enough water too. So that's something that I make sure that those things are in there for the daily disciplines of that new rhythm. Yeah. Our community group is reading this book called Sacred Rhythms.
Sacred Rhythms. Do you know the author? This is pop quiz. I don't know. I wouldn't remember that either. But
Shoot, I don't.
On the spot.
But it's arranging our lives for spiritual transformation, which has been really awesome to dive into right now, just in the timing and where we're at with all the time. So I wanted to throw that out there in case anyone wants to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, look into that or read that, because I do think right now everything is coming to the surface. And things are being revealed just because we don't have the distractions and we don't have the busyness, and we have to sit in these things that aren't comfortable.
Yeah.
And we could easily, dive into vices or, try to escape somehow, or we can, dive into that and see how God can transform us during this time, make us stronger.
Yeah, I think that's so good. One thing that we've started talking as a staff around, in our work meetings and stuff is we're all learning. Well, we can either just learn or we can actually grow out of the season. And so to grow, that means you have to apply some things to what you're learning about yourself. And so I mentioned earlier, I call them release valves. They're either healthy or unhealthy. I know I've heard some crazy stats, and most of you probably resonate with the first one I'm going to share. It's not a stat, but how many of you guys find yourself eating all the time just because you're at home?
I'm about to put a lock on the kitchen.
So like, I think, and I would share it for me personally, like I've heard people talk about the COVID-15. Like, I think that's an unhealthy release valve that we're going to food because we don't know how to handle. The other one, the stat I saw boredom. Was the alcohol sales are now higher than they've ever been. I don't know what the numbers are. It's just, so I think a lot of people are coping that way. That's like an unhealthy release valve or coping mechanism.
Yep. Escaping from what's really being.
Yeah. I don't know if are there any unhealthy ones or ways that you see people are coping?
Those are the main ones for me too. That I've noticed and heard about on the news, but yeah. It's the easy way for sure.
Another one probably that me and my wife are guilty at times is we just get sucked into endless scrolling on social media.
Yes. And or binge watching shows. That's
like we have a chance to connect in a way we've never connected, but we're not connecting sometimes.
Right.
That's pretty guilty to think about. But I want to go back to, so I shared, and these are just my examples. Maybe you have some too, but I want to share and challenge us all to come up with these things that help us have healthy release valves. And so for me, I mentioned working out, reading the Bible, making a cup of coffee, but honestly, it looks different for all of us. And so I just want to talk about that freedom. We all are at different seasons of life. So I personally like to do CrossFit style workouts, but I'm a firm believer in that it's not about how you do it. It's just that you do something. My parents walk, they're walkers. And for me, I think exercise is just a healthy release. And so you need to find something in the season that you can do regularly. Yeah. Whatever
just getting out. Yeah. Even if it's, just a walk or jog.
Getting in the Bible regularly, I think we feel guilty because we go off how it feels for that time.
Yeah.
I'll share with you guys that I recently, me and my wife, actually as of like a few days ago, we have a newborn at the house who's at the 3-month-ish spot now. And for the first time since Graham was born at the end of December, we've got 3 full nights of sleep. And so in our season of life, reading my Bible, honestly, most of the mornings, it's feeding Graham a bottle. And I share that mostly to say, I think, when you're single, it looks different. When you're married, it looks different. When you have kids, it looks different. God's not concerned about how it looks. He cares about your heart and that you want to meet with him. And I just want to share it with you guys. No matter what it looks like, it's extra crazy at the house. God's going to meet you wherever you're at. He just wants you to lean in, and he just cares about your heart. And so,
and that's so true. And not even, I know sometimes we can feel like it's a task to read the Bible, and we can get into that too. But really just inviting the Holy Spirit every time that you read the Bible, and really just allowing it to transform your heart, because that is so important, not just reading the words, but really getting into it.
Do you have any other healthy release valves that you would share from maybe an extrovert perspective?
Like talking to strangers outside of my balcony.
Well, I think for some of us, we're feeling isolation, and a healthy release for us is actually to go talk to someone.
Yeah, for sure. No, Zoom calls, like we were saying before too, has been huge. With my family, Luke's family, friends, just staying connected that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah. And then, the spiritual disciplines and the physical disciplines. Yeah. Those are all really, really good.
I know from an introvert perspective, because that's kind of how we started this conversation.
Yeah.
Like some of us, honestly, we just need to look in our phone and call someone. Like we've just had too much isolation, and yes, introverts don't need as much relational stuff, but
it's harder probably for you guys to start, but then you're probably so happy when you're,
I know yesterday, for example, I'll share, I went and just dropped something off at my brother who lives in Minot, and I had a piece of mail for him because he used to live at my house 5 years ago, and I'm still getting his mail. So I went and dropped off a gift basket for him. And I just stopped to talk with him for like 30 minutes. And I didn't realize it, but I got home and I just felt better. It was a long day and I'd been feeling not good over the weekend. And just a conversation actually raised my spirits.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if from the extrovert side, if there's ways you could.
That is funny because I kind of forgot about this story that I've driven to friends' houses and just talked to people through my car.
Oh my gosh.
Like I'll just roll down my window and they'll stay at their door and we'll just talk. Yeah. So, I think just being creative and finding those ways to still engage and have those relationships is so big right now.
Yeah. So if we could recap, based on your personality, the whole purpose of this conversation is that we're all different. But no matter your personality, I would encourage you to find some healthy release valves. We've talked about some unhealthy ones. We talked about healthy ones. Some of the ones that we talked about that are healthy are connecting, talking on the phone with someone, call someone, getting in God's word regularly.
Some kind of physical activity.
Yeah, do some type of exercise. Give yourself a routine. I shared, I make my own cup of coffee every day, and that it feels like I can actually accomplish something in a time where we have little control.
Those little things I think too that you look forward to.
Yeah. And so I would just encourage you to identify what you're doing that's healthy versus unhealthy as far as those release valves, and brainstorm, share with us what things that you're doing that are healthy to encourage people listening that may not be thinking of it, and you could share it.
Yep. Yeah. Because I think, like we said, it can be hard to go on that journey of trying to be healthy in different areas, but it's so crucial right now for everyone. In their mental states.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it for today. It was a fun conversation. Hopefully you guys got a little laugh this week and enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us. I want to encourage you to check out our other episodes that we've done in the past. We've had some great conversations over the last 4 to 5 weeks. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us share this podcast. One of the things we're trying to do for this podcast is have meaningful conversations about things that are important to you. You can always email us topics or ideas to hello@thepursuit.church. We'd love to hear what's meaningful in your life. And especially in this season, we're talking about what we're all going through. And I think it's been very helpful. And so, yeah.
Yep.
Any closing thoughts for our audience?
I sure miss everyone. I cannot wait to see you all face to face.
Yeah. So thank you for connecting with us today. And we'll see you next week on our next episode of the Pursuit Podcast.